Supplementary video about the knowledge norm of assertion. This is just a background on the knowledge norm of assertion because I'm assuming, given that this is a metaphysics conference, many of you might not be familiar with that, or at least have a few general questions about this, and I'm trying to address these in this video. If you're familiar with the knowledge norm of assertion, you're welcome to skip this. So the knowledge norm of assertion is the claim that we have the epistemic right to make an assertion that P only if we know that P. There are various competing accounts that I won't go into. I'll list just a few of them. There are many more. For example, you could claim that for you to have the epistemic right to assert that P, it would have to be reasonable for you to believe that P you have to be justified, and so on. There's lots of alternatives, but the knowledge norm of assertion is, I think, by far the most popular account. There are three qualifications that are important to keep in mind when talking about the knowledge norm of assertion. The first one is that it's only concerned with epistemic rights. So there may be other reasons why you don't have the right to make an assertion. For example, there may be negative practical consequences that make it wrong for you to assert that P. It may be irrelevant that P to the present conversation, in which case you shouldn't interrupt. And it may be impolite for you to assert that P. If you say that my hair looks messy, that is something that you may well know, but it would be impolite. And so you don't have the right to say that. The epistemic right is the right that has to do with how well informed you are, broadly speaking, and that is what the knowledge norm of assertion is trying to address. A second point that's important is that the knowledge norm of assertion is only concerned with what Keith Rose calls the primary propriety of an assertion. So imagine a scenario where you see a child drowning in a lake and you jump in and you make an attempt to rescue the child. If you manage to rescue the child, the Rose would say, yes, your action has primary propriety, as it achieved the good that you were aiming for. If, despite your best attempt, you fail to rescue the child, you're maybe not good enough of a swimmer, or maybe you're arriving too late, your action is completely blameless. In fact, it's probably laudable, but it has only secondary propriety because it failed to achieve the good that you were after. And something similar is true with knowledge. You can certainly blamelessly make an assertion that maybe you take yourself to have knowledge of, but despite having very good justifying reasons, that assertion turns out to be false, or your justification is flawed in a way that you couldn't be aware of. In that case, your action has secondary propriety, but not primary propriety. So many of the competing accounts, most of them, are concerned with secondary propriety, and I think that's one of the big differences that are important to keep in mind when comparing the knowledge norm assertion to its competitors. And if we push this distinction well enough, I think many of the criticisms of the knowledge norm assertions can be addressed by pointing out that these are criticisms about what we would want from a norm that addresses the secondary propriety, not the primary propriety. Okay, and then finally, it's important to keep in mind that the knowledge norm of assertion is only a necessary condition. Now, this is actually going to be in the main talk, so I'm not going to talk about it here, but it is one of the three qualifications to keep in mind. I've listed a few pieces of evidence that are typically brought forward in support of the knowledge norm assertion. For the sake of time, I won't get into these here, but you're welcome to check the slides for this talk. I'll stop this supplementary video here, and I'll see you at the main talk.